This video lesson deals with the law of sines. Now, we've been working with SOHCAHTOA, and that's whenever we have a triangle with a right angle in it. So we have to have a 90-degree angle in our triangle, and then we can use SOHCAHTOA. But what do we do when we don't have a 90-degree angle in our triangle? Then we can't use those trigonometric ratios. Instead, what we can use, if we have the correct information, is the law of sines. The law of sines is used to solve triangles without a right angle. This is our law of sines. On the top here we have the side A, and below we have the sine of the angle A that corresponds with it. So if we look over here, the capital letter indicates the angle, and the side that corresponds to it is opposite it. It's across, or it's the opposite. So sine of A, and this is side A. So the length of side A divided by the sine of angle A. And this proportion is equal to the same thing, but for B. So angle B, which is up here in capital letters, and its side B is across from it, or opposite. So this is side B. So side B, and then sine of angle B. And that's equal to the same thing in C. Side of C, which is across from angle C in capital letters. So with this proportion, we can then solve for an unknown. We can also write it with the angles on top. Usually, we would put the unknown that we're looking for on top of the proportion. So if I'm looking for an angle, I would use this. Let's write that down. If we're solving for angles, I would use this proportion, and I would use this one if we're trying to solve for sides. Because then it's easier to solve if the x is on the top. Now we can use the law of sines when we're given the following. If we are given two angles and a side. So we can have two angles and this side, or we can have these two angles and a contained side. So angle, angle, and a side that's not contained, or an angle, a side, and an angle. Whenever you have two angles and a side, you can use the sine law. You can also use the law of sines when you have two sides and an angle that's not included. If the angle was included here, you wouldn't be able to use the law of sines. I'm not going to explain in detail why that is, but if that happens, you'll see it when you try to solve the problem. You'll see it's not going to work, and we'll do an example of that in class. Now we'll use our law of sines to solve for an unknown. So we have this triangle here. You'll see it's not a 90-degree angle triangle. There's no 90-degree angle in here. And we're trying to solve for x. So we're going to use our sine law. So the first step here is similar to SOHCAHTOA. We have to start by labeling the sides and the angles. So I'm going to name this angle A. It doesn't really matter which one you name, A, B, and C, but I'm choosing to name them this way. So notice I write the angles in capital letters, and then I'm going to write the sides. So if this is angle A, this has to be side A. It's the opposite side. So I put that in lowercase. This one here will be B, and our x is the C. So since it's a side I'm trying to solve for, the sides are going to have to be on the top of my equation. So I'm putting side, I'm going to use this one. I need sides on top and angles on the bottom. So we'll complete the equation. We'll replace the letters with their values. So my side A is 123.1. Side A, and then underneath it we have sine of angle A, and angle A is 106 degrees. Then we have B, side B is 112, the angle B is 61, and then C is what we're looking for, that's x, and the angle of C is 13. It's maybe not very clear, but it's written here on the side, the angle of C is 13. All right, so now we want to solve for x. So I'm going to go to the next part of the slide. So see, here I have the equation with the values written in. Now, to solve for x, we need to pick two parts of this equation. We're used to solving when we have two fractions equal to one another. So since all of these are equal to each other, we can pick any pair. So, but you're going to want to pick the one with the x that we're trying to solve. So we'll go ahead and write that down. X over sine of 13. And then we can pick either this fraction or this one. I'm going to use this one. It has smaller numbers that are a little bit simpler. So equals 112 over sine 61. Now we're going to use our cross multiplication to solve for x. And actually, you don't even need to do a full cross multiplication. We really just need to bring this sine 13 up here. So x becomes 112 times sine 13 divided by sine 61. It's best if you do this all in one step in your calculator so that we don't have rounding problems. You will just round at the very end. So when you're doing this in your calculator, it's important that you put brackets around what's on the top. Your calculator needs to know that it's doing this multiplication here first before it does the division. So I'd like you all to take out your graphing calculators and try it. 112 times sine 13 in brackets divided by sine 61. So if you're doing it properly on your calculator, you should be getting 28.8. If you're not getting 28.8, try it again on your calculator. And if you're having trouble with that, make sure you let me know in class. Now we'll try another example. So here we are trying to solve for x. We're trying to find the missing side. So your first step should be to label the sides. So here's my side A, it's across from angle A, my side B, and my side C. So I'm going to write my sine law. Since it's a side I'm finding, I put that on top. Notice how I'm starting with B because that's the one I'm trying to find. The order doesn't really matter because they're all equal. Okay, now put in the values in our equation. So we have x over sine 58.5 equals 3.5 over sine 49 equals c, well we don't know c, and sine of 72.5. We don't know c and we don't have to find c either. So now we need to decide which sets are we going to use. We have to use this because we're trying to find x. We could use this. We have all the values here, but here this will not be helpful because we have another unknown. You don't want two unknowns. So this will not be helpful. We're not going to use it. We're just going to use this here and solve for x. So same thing, we're going to cross multiply, bring that up here. So now we have x equals 3.5 times sine 58.5 divided by sine 49. Again, remember when you do this on your calculator, the numerator has to be in brackets to make sure the calculator does it properly. And solve for x. So if you put this properly in your calculator, you should get 3.95, and our units here are centimeters. This is the last example I'd like you to try. I know on your paper the angles weren't very clear, so if you could please copy them down. This is 55 here, 55 degrees. Here it's 54.7, and here it's 70.3. So copy those down, please, and I'd like you to solve for x. Please show all your work. I'll be checking this in our next class.